Good evening and welcome to the Town of Erving Select Board Water Commissioners meeting for Monday, May 11th, 2026. Calling to order at 6:31 p.m. First order of business will be to appoint a chair for tonight's meeting in the absence of our regularly appointed chair.
I make a motion, we appoint Jim Roy as acting chair.
I will second that. Any discussion?
Thank you.
Want to do that again?
No discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we did have a request from the public to be recognized and speak. Sir, if you'd like to step forward, state your name and the nature of your business, please.
Sure. Thanks for allowing me to do this. Yeah, my name is Bob Nedvich. I live in New York, but I own a home on One Gun Street. Okay, and I'm usually, though I come to this village often, I usually on here on a Monday evening, so it kind of worked out because I have some material I was going to send in. I'll just hand it in. It's something probably your board has talked about, but maybe not for a while. But I saw last year you addressed the speeding issue. Okay, and in 2020, and I'll hand that letter out to you. I had sent a letter into Brian and the present board. I don't think in 2020 the present board, other than Brian, was there, right? The selectmen? Were any of the selectmen here in 2020?
Maybe Jim wasn't.
I was not.
Maybe you were finishing a term.
I think I was finishing a term,
Yeah.
but I don't.
Okay.
I
But
don't
it really
recall, I don't recall what the
Okay, it
letter
really
said.
doesn't make a difference. So Brian called me, and one selectman member called me. I believe he lived in the flats. Okay, whomever that might have been.
Selectman Bassarash.
Okay, and my concern is, like I said, I have a house on One Gun Street. That's a house crossing the bridge, and my concern has always been the speed. And it became the village's concern since once that motorcyclist was hit. Okay, I'm not saying you weren't concerned before, but I'm just saying, you know, all of a sudden there was a study done with that. I probably could have saved you a lot of money because when you're working down there, the cars are whizzing by. That 25-mile speed limit, that's too fast for that hill. I mean, if anything, it should be 20. And they've shown that you go from 25 to 20, it reduces speeding. Okay, but my concern, I had mentioned to Brian to put one of those units that shows what your speed is coming down the hill, and because I know it works. Because if you're entering the back part of Sunderland, they have one. So when I'm heading home, I'm going that way, and I know right away. I see that, boom, my speed goes down what it should be. Okay, and last week I was getting some flowers at a nursery in my area, and this village, I only go a couple times a year. I was coming home and I didn't realize they put one up. My speed was 38, it was supposed to be 30. Boom, I went down what the speed was supposed to be. So that's one thing. I know Brian said to me that, I don't recall at that time if you had that crosswalk at the lower part of the hill,
Yep.
where we're going to do it. I don't remember. And see, I just don't think that's sufficient. Maybe it's a help, but the problem I see is that a driver at the top of the hill can see all the way down that there's someone or not someone in that crosswalk, and if there's not, they're going fast. And the two incidents that I mentioned, what I'm going to hand out to you, is that a truck was going too fast and he tipped over, and I have the year it happened. Fortunately, there was no one on the sidewalk. And the other one, someone was coming up the hill, and they gunned it going around the corner, and he went over the sidewalk by the Red Lantern. He got up and just took off. Fortunately, no one was on the sidewalk. Okay? So that's something I would like to see done. The village I live in, Mount Kisco, New York, we want to, I happen to be on a committee, a pedestrian committee. but Biden gave money for communities. We want a $7 million grant to improve our pedestrian traffic safety. I don't know every community gets information on that. I included that in here to how that could be applied, but, you know.
Well,
let
if
me
you'd
just-
like, what I'll say, in the interest of time, and we did entertain your comments without an advance notice. So a couple of things I'll touch on. One, that roadway is a state roadway. The speeds are set by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, so we have no control over that. I will tell you, as a retired police officer, speeds on that road have been a concern for many, many years.
Yeah.
We've tried traffic calming measures, we've tried selective enforcement, we've tried having targeted patrols specifically with state highway grants, with clicker to ticket, and speed, directed speed enforcement. It's an ongoing issue. I know Brian and our town planners have been very active. To this point, we haven't been successful, but I certainly appreciate your concerns.
Okay.
I'm happy to receive any information you have. The whole board can review it again. I know we have other issues as well as residents who have brought those concerns in, and we are trying to do something about it.
Okay, so the state set the speed
The state
limit.
sets the speed limit
Right.
on the roadways.
Now,
So
how
we-
about if to add a speed monitor to show what the speed, is that up to them too?
We have to be very careful about what we do and work in concert with them.
Yeah.
You do have, in that particular section of Leicester Street, there's a shoulder. So there is a little room that we would be able to potentially place something, but there's other considerations that have to go into that. But that layout may allow for something.
Bill,
Yeah.
anything to?
Yeah, I would think that a speed radar control sign would be possible. The full board would have to discuss it and bring it back up for discussion. Glenn, the highway director, is here, and I would ask Glenn, do we have any of those signs available currently?
No.
No, they're all already in places in
Yeah,
town.
we haven't bought any in many years.
Well, what's the cost?
Depends on the
Last one
style.
was Chief Blair. It was part when Chief Blair was here. I wasn't any part of it, Bill, but I could
Okay.
look into it.
All right.
Well, in the information I had requested was one for that speed monitor, but at the bottom of the hill to have a four-way stop. But I realize that's not probably logical to do, okay? But what you
So
might
we did-
consider
we
is
did
at
look-
Pratt Street, you have that flashing thing. That catches your eye to add one down there at the bottom of the hill, at that crosswalk.
Again, anything we would have to do would be coordinated with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and
So, and I
DOT.
just,
So-
if it's okay to
Yeah,
respond,
please
on
do.
the four-way stop, we did look into that
Yeah.
when you requested that.
Okay.
And there's already two roads who come to a stop. Gun Street comes to a stop. River Street comes to a stop. The through traffic, it looks like it should be organized as a stop, but the through traffic across the bridge is actually 63. And the state reviewed that for a warrant and said it was not warranted to have a stop on those two locations. They didn't want traffic sitting on the bridge. So
Yeah, no, I realized later that wasn't a logical thing to
Okay.
just stop there, okay?
yeah.
Okay. Could I just address one other quick thing?
Okay.
Well, I have the floor.
Allotted 5 minutes, so we're over that, so please wrap it up.
Okay.
And again, we can.
This is something,
This isn't not an issue that's going to be solved tonight. It hasn't been solved in years, but we will take it under advisement, so.
Can I just mention this one
If
thing?
you have one closing thought, please do.
Okay. Yeah, Erving does what our village used to do, and that's you have one day you have this massive pickup, and the reason that we stopped it is because the village becomes a mess, absolute mess, and two, you got people coming in at 11, 12 at night, people you don't know from other villages, scouring through things, and you don't know anything about them, okay? And so what our village did is that you're allowed one pickup a year from April 1st to October, I forgot, okay? And you have to make an appointment for it. And the thing is, you don't need a pickup every year. the reason they're doing it because you're allowing them to have a pickup. Now, would the village people complain? Yeah, at first, but so what? They complain about other things. And the last pickup I had was last year, and the first time in 5 years. I live in a street, there's 7 homes. Only one other home had a pickup last year. I said, hey, why don't you put some of your stuff to my stuff? You know? And I mean, I don't know if your village Erving can do that because you hire outside people. But see, our village maintenance people do that, you know?
Okay.
And, you know, I was here in 2018 getting the house at the time I thought I was going to sell it, that I inherited. 11 o'clock at night, the window open, I hear someone going through everything, you know?
All right,
And,
so with all due respect, I've allowed you more than
Yeah,
allotted
I
time.
appreciate it.
I do appreciate your words, I do appreciate your concerns, but we are going to move on. If you'd like to leave some information with Brian,
Okay.
we can put this on an
Okay.
agenda at a future
I'm going to
date,
hand this
okay?
out, you can distribute. And all I'm going to just say is, I don't live here, I come here often, and I still care about this village.
And
Okay,
I do
so-
appreciate that,
right.
but
Yeah, there's going to be 4, I guess, right? 3 selectmen and Brian?
Yep.
2, 3, 4. Okay.
Thank you so much, Bob.
Okay. I appreciate your time, Brian. Okay.
thank you very much.
Okay. I apologize for taking your time.
No apologies necessary. You did ask to be heard, and we like to give everybody their opportunity. But we are going to move on. All right. At 6:35, we had posted an oath of office for 2 new police officers due to a conflict, a timing conflict with our town clerk. We are moving that to Wednesday evening at our scheduled meeting then.
Correct.
Okay, next up, review meeting minutes of April 6th and April 13th, 2026.
I make a motion, we accept the meeting minutes of Monday, April 6th, 2026, as written.
I will second that. Any discussion? Hearing nothing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you, gentlemen.
And I make a motion, we accept the meeting minutes of Monday, April 13th, 2026, as written.
I will second that motion. Any further discussion?
None?
Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you. Review of surplus equipment request, Department of Senior Services, first read.
So this request is in regards to the shelter structure that we use for the van. It is, since Thomas has moved into the facilities manager position, I assigned the ADA transition plan work to him to follow up on. And working with Glenn and Dulcie, they reviewed the parking arrangements for this facility, and it turns out that that was installed where the van accessible spaces needs to be. And that is meant to refer to not the van that we house, the van that somebody may transport themselves with and then need to be able to access. So we need to get the structure out of that space so that we can return it to its intended use. And then having the conversation with the team, it probably is more structure than we need for the particular issue here. We need something that's enough to keep the van dry and clear of ice and snow in the winter, but we don't need something this large. It's actually large enough that it probably could be used to house the backhoe or the loader or one of our other large pieces of equipment. So that is the recommendation, to surplus it from this property and make it available to the highway department.
Okay. Sounds reasonable, and it sounds like you need to make that space available for its original intended use. Bill, any thoughts?
I have no concerns. Glenn, do you have any space for that, or do we have a space
We can find
allotted
out for
for
it.
that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And I assume highway's gonna take it down?
Yes.
Okay. I have no concerns.
All right.
So
Carrie? Carry that, please.
Thank you.
Review surplus equipment request for the school department, first read.
And they have a little bit of everything on here.
Okay.
And it comes with pictures.
Looks like a proofer, a leaf blower, a mower deck, weed whacker, wheelbarrow, snow blower, tractor, snow blower. No lions, tigers, or bears, though. All right.
Exactly. And all of these items are damaged, and so largely they are being considered for scrap.
Okay.
I have no concerns.
I have no concerns.
Well, Carrie?
Will carry, please. Review of surplus equipment request, library department, first read.
So this is the one that you have printed in front of you. This is in reference to the art sculptures that you can see from 63. That was a temporary art installation that we received through a grant. And the scope of the work was meant to be natural materials that would last for maybe one season and then be removed. But they became very popular parts of the library, and the artists who sculpted them did not want them back at the end, and so they made a gift to the library to keep them. So they were gifted to the department at the end of their installation. And we amended the contract to reflect that that was the disposition of them. Since then, they've been here for another year. And while they've been enjoyed, my understanding is that the library, they're starting to need maintenance to be able to continue their use. Again, they were meant to be a seasonal item. If they were to continue to be used, they need some improvements, and that's not aligning with what the library is looking to do with that space. And so they've asked to make this surplus. They have offered those that the school may want to them. They have a reading circle themselves, and so the principal has reviewed the pieces and identified, I believe, 3 pieces that they would like to repurpose at the school and make the necessary improvements. And then there are some remaining items that the school has passed on. And so the goal would be to deem these surplus, and the others that the school cannot repurpose, dispose of them.
I have no concerns. It seems like we got more than the intended lifespan out of it, and that's never a bad thing that I can think of.
But I have no concerns as well. Do we know which pieces the school is not interested in?
Yes. Yep. They the principal came over, met with Abby, and met with Thomas, and they went through the pieces that they're going to be claiming and the ones that they are not interested in, so that Thomas can work with Glenn and we can have them removed from the property. Because of the nature of them, we didn't. They're not sitting on the surface; they're actually embedded in the ground. So they need to be removed, and we'll work with the team to loam and seed to make sure that the ground is returned to a flat surface for the library.
Okay. So we can carry that one as well.
You got it.
Let's see. Next up, it looks like we need to review the modular office for public works procurement.
Sadly, I think this will be quick. So we worked with you all to release our request for proposals back in the winter. They were issued at the end of January. They were due the beginning of March. We received one submission from Triumph Modular. Because it was an RFP, as required by the law, we didn't open the price proposal. There was the technical proposal and then a sealed price proposal. And so Glenn and Thomas did the review work in accordance with the comparative criteria. They rated the proposal to be highly advantageous based on the responses they got from other municipalities who have worked with this firm. And so now that the rating was done, we could finally open the price, and we did that last week. And I'm disappointed to announce that the price for the 2 modular offices that we were looking for came in at $318,178, which greatly exceeded our budget of $154,000. So I don't think there's any salvaging this particular procurement, and I don't think in good conscience I can ask you to go back to the voters and amend the budget. I think we need to explore a different solution. So my recommendation would be to reject and fail this bid.
Disappointing indeed. I do disagree with you. More than double our funding. And
Yeah.
with the battles we've just gone through with this budget to bring a balanced budget to the people, I don't see how that's workable. But Bill, do you have any?
Yeah, I would agree, and I would make a motion to reject the bid of $318,178 submitted by Triumph Modular Incorporated.
I will second that motion. Any further discussion?
None.
Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Discussion regarding potential for a special town meeting prior to June 30th of 2026. Thinking to tie up some loose ends.
We were thinking about it. So I just laid out in a memo some bullet points on topics that you started to either hear about or contemplate during the budget setting process and the annual town meeting setting process. And just to let you know where they currently stand to see if you really do want to try to pull this off for June 30. If that's the case, I need to bring you a warrant to review at your next meeting. So you had contemplated, by request of some town department heads, a bylaw to address parking, specifically parking in facilities that the town owns related to facilities such as the library or here at the Senior Community Center, and also specifically to address the enforcement of handicap parking. Another one that had been requested just prior to the finalization of the ETM was a request from the director of the Senior Community Center to just amend the revolving fund that's on the books. It's limited to facility use, and she was looking to broaden that use to include programs and services. So fees and expenses related to that could also flow through that account. Both of those would require bylaw amendments by the voters to pursue. Topics that were previously anticipated, but they are not ready. The planning board had tentatively communicated that they may have zoning bylaw amendments to bring to the voters. They've been working quite diligently over the last few months on these items, and I thought that there was a chance that they'd be preparing to hold their public hearing that's a requirement of the process in the month of May, but that does not look like it will happen. It looks like it will happen later this summer. So I don't think that there's as pressing of a timeline to hold those meetings. And obviously Jackie's here. Did I misspeak?
No.
Okay.
We're still working on the mill reuse overlay district one. We have some that are ready to go, but we'd rather do it all at once, just to be more efficient.
I love that idea.
Another one that you heard through the budget setting process was the Board of Health. Board of Health member Delaney had mentioned that there may be a request from the board seeking to amend their composition from 3 members to 5 members. I think they're reconsidering that, and so to date they have not made a formal request of you all. And then the last one, the town clerk had proposed some revisions to the dog bylaw. You all gave your feedback. He was working to incorporate that work, and then through that process, I think it was Selectman Smith who suggested that there are some overlaps with the zoning bylaw that should be referred back to the planning board and worked on with the town clerk. And so I know the town clerk has not met with the planning board yet, so I don't think that will be ready in time for June. And that was specifically related to kennels and how that works in our permitting process. And then the last one is a request, it's a new request also from the Director of Senior Services, and that is to address our Council on Aging. The council was formed in 1978 and it has a 7-member composition. We have not had sufficient membership in quite some time, so they have not had a quorum for years, and they have not been able to do the work of the council. We advertise every year that we have openings, and this is one of those boards similar to the Historic Commission conversation that we had last year, that we've just struggled, to maintain quorums and our ability to function. So the director would respectfully ask for the board to consider an amendment that would bring that down to 5.
Okay.
But looking at all of this, I don't know that any of this justifies a special town meeting for June 30th this time.
Well, any thoughts?
I have no concerns.
Okay.
I would say, just, in the logistics and time and effort it takes to assemble and ask our community to come out, maybe we can table some of those items until maybe early in the next fiscal year or sometime late summer, early fall, when we can convene and discuss those matters. So I'd say
Okay.
we'll table that for now.
You got it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, let's see, what do we have next? We just keep going right down the line. Review of proposed amendment to the vacation leave policy and the personnel policies and procedures for a first read.
So this amendment is one that you all discussed last year. And this would just be to amend that vacation leave to allow you all during the hiring process, or I guess the appointing authority, I should say, in the hiring process could award or amend a new employee's vacation leave by up to 1 week. So the schedule itself does not change, but it would allow them maybe to start at the next tier. And that would be in consideration of a new employee's prior experience in a similar municipality, a similar role. So typically when they're leaving those places and they're coming in at a beginning vacation leave, it can be part of a package that makes it hard to attract somebody with years of experience. And so this would just give some flexibility to the appointing authority to work through that hiring process.
I agree with giving the appointing authority that flexibility to recruit skilled people for the whatever vacancies we may need to fill. That's my opinion, Mr. Bembury.
Do we need to make a motion for this amendment?
So typically you all do your 3 reads like you do for your other policy amendments.
Okay.
So yes, I will absolutely need an amendment, and I can prepare that language for your review when you're ready to do so. I should also just note, because the 2 collective bargaining agreements that we have point to the personnel manuals for vacation and sick leave, I reviewed this with both unions and they've agreed to this language as well.
Okay. So this is our first read, and we have 2 more reads?
Correct.
Okay. I would move, Brian, that you prepare the vote language for our 3rd read.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Happy to.
All right, so we'll move it for a second read.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. Review of proposed amendment to the overtime policy for eligible call force firefighters and the personnel policies and procedures. First read.
So this one is specific, as it notes, to the call force firefighters and the situation that has arisen from time to time where you have an employee who works full-time in one of your other departments. And I'll just make up a scenario. You have a full-time library employee whose full-time duties are here at the library, but they also are appointed as a call force firefighter. Their town of Erving employment makes them eligible once they hit that 41st hour for overtime. But the question is it the library's overtime? Is it the fire department's overtime? And what's the appropriate rate? Because the firefighter rate is one rate, and the library in this example would be a different rate. And so there are a few different scenarios that we've researched with council, and the one that we're recommending for you to consider is one where we would work with those call force firefighters with an advanced agreement. And the proposal that's laid out here is that once they hit that 41st hour, they are indeed entitled to that overtime. The question is if that overtime is for the call force or not. So your pay week starts Saturday, goes and ends on Friday. If the work is Friday and it's to go be a call force firefighter, that overtime would be 1.5 times the call force firefighter rate. If instead the call force work happened Saturday and Sunday, and now we're on Friday, it's possible that that overtime could impact another department at the end of the week. So again, we would have to make sure we have very clear language and an agreement that we would sit down and speak to not only just the employee, but make sure that both the fire chief and the department who typically has that full-time employee on their staff understand the financial impacts. But that is a path forward for this very niche item that has come up over the last few years.
Would this affect any potential employees who are either salaried or elected on the hours they spend on?
So elected, no, because elected is seen as a completely different compensation structure.
Okay.
Salary, potentially, but your salary employees generally have a employment contract, and the appointing authority, usually in that language, has to approve any other appointments because the contract has to speak to the entirety of their compensation. So the appointing authority would still weigh in on that. So I largely think that you're only going to deal with this when we have a full-time employee or somebody near full-time who is an hourly employee eligible for overtime. And then they seek this additional appointment with the call force. Those are the only instances that it's occurred to us in the last 5 years that we've had to work through those scenarios.
Do we know how many employees are currently volunteer fire department officers?
How many call force we have, or how many are in this scenario?
How many are in this scenario?
My understanding is I currently have one.
One?
Correct. But it has happened for at least one additional employee in the past few years.
Okay.
So it is something that it would make sense to codify how you want it handled.
Mm-hmm.
I have reviewed this with Chief Wonka. Of the scenarios, this is the one that he would recommend to you all as well. But happy to do further research or to follow up on any items. I assume this one may take more than 3 reads before you all feel satisfied. So happy to research whatever you would like.
I have no concerns at this time.
Okay.
And I would move that we move it to a second reading.
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay.
All right. Review of proposed age and dementia-friendly planning policy, first read.
So this is a attempt to high level inform our different decision-making bodies, some of which would be obviously the select board, could be the rec commission, other boards who have oversight over facilities, as they're starting to plan physical improvements for the spaces that they have jurisdiction over, that they take into consideration mobility, ability to navigate and wayfind, and think about individuals with a range of abilities of either their their mobility in terms of walking or needing assistive technology, or even just clarity as to where things are located. I think some people make assumptions that everybody knows how to navigate, and if somebody is on the spectrum of dementia or any other ailment that may impact their ability to remember where they are and where they're going and how to navigate, having some of this in place can make our neighborhoods and the facilities that we are caring for easier to navigate and to successfully use. So we've engaged conversations with this facility, with Glenn and his team, with Abby, Town Planning Office in past years, and our colleagues at FRCOG to research just some very, again, high level. This isn't prescriptive in the sense that it's telling anybody what they must do, but it's requiring them to go through the thought exercise to make sure that they're considering the signage, the surfaces that somebody would walk across, how facilities are connected to one another so that people can successfully navigate. I know that there has been a lot of conversation with our FRCOG counterparts who have offered us grant money in past years. We're very appreciative of that funding. It's improved some of our spaces. We have benches and gardens and all of these other really nice attributes to these facilities that have made it easier to provide respite and ways for people to enjoy and be part of our services. But they're hoping for policy change, because grant money will not always be guaranteed. They won't be able to guarantee that every year that we will be able to buy more infrastructure, but instead if we can make policy changes that would have lasting impacts on the way that we are structuring things, the work carries on. So this group met last year in the spring, again in the fall, worked on this recommended language for what to do about the built environment. I think a subsequent policy would focus on how we communicate through communication tools such as the website, printed materials in our facilities, how we are communicating to folks, how do we set up our programs to make sure that they're accessible, and if people need assistive technology or other forms of accommodations, how do we make that readily available so folks know how to ask for those things. So I think that's a subsequent policy that would be coming.
Brian, is this state or federal law?
No. I mean, I should back up and say, obviously we must comply with the ADA, which is of course federal law. State law largely complements the ADA, and so we work with our partners at the Mass Office on Disability. So we do have those two state and federal agencies that we would comply with and continue to work with. This is in addition, this is setting local guidance as to the directive you would want any, again, border commission or decision maker who is working on planning a project for infrastructure to incorporate into the plans. I think sometimes Glenn and I don't mean to speak for him, we get the project when they've already got the cost estimates and it's already gone to capital and people are already saying this is how much something's going to cost. And then we start going through the process of saying, well, did you plan for sidewalks of this width? Did you plan for a crossing here? Did you incorporate these things? And once you start doing that, the dollar amount becomes a little bigger and that budget doesn't stretch as far as you're initially hoping. And so the goal is let's put it up front so that they know to incorporate it. And then we can work with our financial partners at Capital Planning to incorporate this as part of their checklist. Was your project reviewed in this framework before it came to us?
My only concern is what effect the policy itself would have on the cost of projects that we enter into or decide to initiate for the town and the community as a whole.
Yeah.
I would be concerned as to what that is, and the policy itself right now doesn't kind of give me any feedback on what that entails. It talks about sidewalks and pathways, and does that mean that sidewalks and pathways get wider? I just don't quite yet see how it affects how it makes it better for age and dementia-friendly streets and parks and outdoor policies.
So you're
So-
suggesting you want more specifics?
Yes.
Okay, we can
Yes.
be more detailed.
Yep.
If that's helpful. I'll give you one for instance, and I think the folks who have served on the library building committee would offer similar feedback. I think had we had some guidance in place like this, and we're thinking through this lens, the encouragement to go with that aggregate surface that right at the on the patios on the front and the rear of the building, I think they would have pushed back on that design feature and said that's not what we want, because it's not going to be friendly to individuals of all ages. We've got young children who get bumped and scraped, and certainly for some of our individuals with limited mobility, we have to be nervous about trip hazards. And so anything with that type of rough texture is actually harder for them to move with a walker or something of assistive technology. So as an example, I think we would make different design choices, and hopefully it potentially could be less of a cost. That was additional work that somebody did to give us that texture, and maybe we didn't need that.
Yeah.
You know, but we can certainly add more specificity. I think I specifically was trying to avoid being so specific that
That's the,
I wasn't anticipating something, therefore it's not reflected here, and then
Right.
somebody goes, well, now I can't do something. But we could provide examples, or at least put minimum thresholds. So for instance, a sidewalk can't be less than 4 feet in width, and so we typically plan for 5 feet if we can allow for it. So maybe we can incorporate aspects like that.
Yeah, I just think we need a more in-depth conversation about it.
Of course.
An example that I would give is one example that I'm aware of, and over the last 10 or 15 years, the laws have been passed to change the composition of soil within the state parks, which isn't a bad thing, but it does present costs to the community and the town, and it makes falling not hurt when you're in the park, essentially.
Yeah.
But it's like when you fall, it's supposed to hurt
Understood.
to some degree.
Understood.
So I have some technical objections to how that works and how we make that work in a way that's reasonable and cost efficient for everybody.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And I think one other example that's coming to mind, I was thinking about road layouts. We have a variety of widths of our roads, but if you start to think about laying out a road, you want to make sure that you've thought about all the pedestrian connections, if there are going to be any, and how wide those need to be. And so it's even down to planning out those initial widths that we even bring to you and then to the voters to approve, because we need to plan for that capacity. And Care Drive is an example of one that we're expanding right now, and we've just recently had some meetings about how wide the sidewalks will be and where will, if any, where will the trees be, and how is that going to provide shade, or does it provide shade? Where will there be a bench if there is going to be a bench? And so I think we're starting to think broader and more comprehensive, and I don't know that those conversations used to happen early on. So cost can increase, but it's also trying to reflect that we don't want to be involved in takings or any type of additional work down the road. We'd like to do this to the best of our ability one time. But I think that's a fair point. There are hidden costs in all of this, and so we can try to be clear about that.
yeah, no, there are. And I mean, to Brian's point, one of the things he said earlier is if we start with a budget without having good project planning and good project management, those budgets grow, and planning in advance prevents change orders later.
Yeah.
And that's where things get expensive, when you were bringing re-engineering, resubmitting for permits, for licensing, for other things.
Right.
That's where it can really affect the budget. I'll say I was reading through this, and I agree with Bill. I think we could be a little bit more granular, have a little bit more substance in what we're looking for, but not so much that we're tying ourselves or painting ourselves into a corner. We want to have some flexibility, but I think overall, if we're getting to this level of maturity in our project planning and what we're trying to do as a municipality, as long as we're careful and we strike a good balance, I think this is helpful. I looked at it through a lens of, the multi-generational housing we're looking to put in. I think of it from my personal experience with losing a parent and experiencing a trip that related to a serious injury, and also, almost accelerated dementia and Alzheimer's. I think being more mindful of safety for people who have ambulatory issues, and also being thoughtful of if a person does get off track, if the path is circular and if they turn around or continue forward, they'll end up back at the same place, and hopefully with something familiar to jog their memory.
Exactly.
And these are all things that, again, it speaks to the level of maturity that the town and its planning is getting to, so it's a good thing, but if we can
Yeah.
tease out some more specifics that
Well,
we can work with.
we'll bring back a red line draft for you all, try to put in some more specifics. And in the meantime, if there's any other specific requests that anybody has, just feel free to let myself know or Glenn know, and we'll try to incorporate it for your next reading.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Yeah. I wanted to knock off a lot of the things that I thought we could get through. Why don't we tackle review and approval of the Treasury warrant, and then we'll go back and spend some time on item number 1, which was the Treasurer's position, which I thought we might spend a little bit of time on.
I make a motion to approve the 24th accounts payable warrant for fiscal year 2026 in the aggregate amount of $149,795.87 as presented.
Yeah, I'll second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Review of treasurer position description and community profile drafts.
So in your packet should be a red line version of the position description that you saw last week. I shared it with the assistant treasurer, the town accountant, and a few other of our colleagues just to receive some feedback. And so I've tried to work into this draft their feedback, as well as the topic that you all brought up at your last review, which was in regards to tax titles and the consent that you would like the treasurer to seek from the select board before they engage in takings. So hopefully I've at least brought attention to that.
So what I have is largely grammatical fixes. So Bill, anything of substance you want to comment on, or?
I don't believe we determine the amount of hours.
I do need you to weigh in on that. That's a great catch.
Currently, the treasurer's hours are set at 35 plus.
So the hours had been 25, and you all worked, can't remember what year it was, to increase the annual salary to allow for up to 30 hours. And that was, I think, in relation to the new software project that was happening townwide for the financial services, as well as support for procurements. townwide. So that's been a few years now. When we created the budget and the warrant, in the event that the voters did not approve the treasurer to transition to an appointed position, you had me recalculate that salary at 25 hours a week. And then in the budget, I believe my recollection is that we held enough capacity, if it was to become appointed, that you'd have the flexibility up to full-time. I've since had that conversation with the assistant treasurer and a few other colleagues again in town hall, and overwhelmingly I've been given the feedback that that the work is not enough to justify 40 hours a week. I don't know that I love the idea of going back down to 25 hours a week. I have mixed feelings about how accessible this position will be to somebody. Some folks who may be qualified may not want full-time work. At the same point, 25 may be too few hours. So I think we need to have a little flexibility, and obviously now that it's an appointed position, you do enjoy some flexibility as you're going through the hiring process. But I do think we either need to advertise with a range, or we need to try to come to your majority approval of what the number of hours are that you want to be advertised to seek a candidate for.
So, we've had some struggles bringing balanced budgets a couple of years in a row. So if it doesn't warrant full-time, then I wouldn't be in favor of going 40 hours. I agree with you. 25 might be a little drastic, especially as somebody incoming does get up to speed. My question would be, if we cut it too low, what that additional time could be beneficially used towards. I know our outgoing treasurer a couple of years ago recognized we're working very hard with our financial institutions to improve our interest earnings, and I'm wondering if some of that time could be designated to working more closely with our financial institutions, or shopping rates, or doing things, having a pretty good authority that could be very competitive place where we might be able to gain an advantage, and it's worth thinking about allowing time for that alone, or even other.
It's a fair observation, and I think you, prior to maybe 3 years ago, weren't having as deep of a conversation annually about what revenue is derived from those investments. But I think in the last 3-ish years, it's become quite the focal point. And it's allowing us to make some very strategic investments in some places. So I think that's a fair point. I do think the scope of responsibilities are broad for maybe a town of our size, because of the number of employees that we have and the size of the investments that we do maintain. I don't think that means that. I think 2 points you mentioned. One, somebody new may come in without the necessary experience, and so there would definitely be a learning curve. Even if somebody came in with full treasurer experience in the state of Massachusetts, they're still going to have to learn Erving's processes. So there still would be a small learning curve. But I think, to your point, there could be more depth to some of this work. And I think one thing that you all haven't engaged in as much, but it sounds like you all and or the FinCom want to have more of these conversations, is a more policy and or goal setting conversation with the treasurer about what your financial objectives are and how you want that work to be done. And you only see each other currently right now through the budget setting process. And so if this person responds to you all, I could see where maybe they come in and meet with you quarterly or whatever your goal is, and or the FinCom, to talk about those goals and the progress being made on those goals. So I definitely think there's more depth that could be added to that.
So I agree with my counterpart, Jim. One of my concerns would be the financial health of the community and of the municipality, and how the treasurer approaches that, and on what level he or she will approach that. And I don't think we spend enough time financially looking at our investments and the investments that we make as a community, and that there's enough understanding put into that so that we know we're doing the best that we can, and that we're taking in the amount of investment for the community that gives us the best bang for the buck. And I think that's something I'd like to see the treasurer. It's their duty to begin with. It's within their job description, and so I'd like to know that we're doing that. And I am concerned that I don't want the position to be so low that the ability is not there for them to do that work, and to look into extra things that the community might need, that's desirable. So I think a range for the job description itself, if we set a range between 25 and 30 hours to start, I think that gives us a base to work from.
Okay.
And it doesn't guarantee that that's the hours that person's going to work, but at least it sets a range. And the door is always open to, depending on what happens in the future and what the treasurer is involved in. Hours can increase as it's needed, or decrease as it's needed. So
Would you
I
want
think
that
a
in
range is
the?
a good way.
Would you want that in the advertisement that way?
I would.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think transparent expectations
Yeah.
are clear. You know, somebody,
Okay.
and depending on a person, you know, we have somebody that comes in with a really broad knowledge base of financing and investment. I think of, you know, in this past year with OPEB and what we're able to do with that, and those earnings allowed us to transition funds away from
Yeah.
our taxpayers,
Yeah.
and allowed us to do more because we had those earnings, and we strategically planned for that, and we got, you know, we had a goal and we managed it, and we got to that point, which,
Right.
you know, allowed us to do the things we hope to do to bring to the town without asking them to dig even deeper into their pockets. So
Right.
if somebody has particularly strong skill set in that area, it'd be foolish not to tap into it.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. So I can make that revision.
Anything else?
I have no other concerns at this time. I think what we have currently, and with the red lines, I think it totally covers the job description as a whole.
Okay.
And when are we anticipating putting this position out?
When you all say that this is okay to publish.
Okay.
So I, not knowing if we would get through it tonight, I put this on your agenda for Wednesday as well, just in case you needed to carry this topic one more time for a clean read. But if you approve it this week, we'll get it out.
Okay. And I would like to carry it for at least one more, at least, so our colleague in the middle has a
Absolutely.
chance to opine if there's anything else that we haven't mentioned. But if you will, I'll just rip through a couple of the small
Sure.
typos that I found. So under supervisory responsibilities, I believe that's in the first page, second paragraph, first line. Supervision of a one-time employee who should read works the same location and same work shift.
Got it.
Moving down to, where is it? Under essential functions, item 4, should we reconciles cash, receivables, withholdings?
Got it.
Same section, item 7. Just actually looking for clarification on this. What does it mean, quote unquote, land of low values, and how it reads in that sentence?
I would defer to Jackie on that one, but my understanding is for small pieces of property, like little slivers of land, when they truly have so little value to them and they end up in tax title, there's a different process for handling those versus actual parcels and structures.
Thank you for joining us, Jackie.
And I did not know she'd be here, so.
So that is, what land of low value is a process that allows the treasurer to basically take the land, okay, it's in tax title, but take it and not have to go through the process. Now, there is a process to go through that, and you have to get approval from the DOR to do that.
Okay.
But it is a way, because it's land of low value, you don't have to advertise and things like that. Basically, the town can take the land once you've met all the requirement from the Department of Revenue.
But it's not land with structures, it's not large parcels.
It's not, it's land of low value, so
Right.
every year the value changes. The Department of Revenue sets the value limit.
So it's underneath that.
Right, it's not always vacant land, though. It's
Okay.
land of low value. Don't quote me because it's been a while since I looked at it, but I want to say that it could be land valued at like $20,000. So if it had a structure on it and it was still under $20,000, it would qualify, but
Potentially,
it's
okay.
quite a complicated process to get approval from the Department of Revenue. You have to submit all this information. The tax collector has to submit all the documentation that the liens have been placed. The assessors have to put their information in on the parcels and the values and the years and all of that, and then the treasurer oversees the process.
So that this is done yearly by DOR?
They adjust the value yearly, but the process is when the community feels they want to apply for it. Many communities don't. We currently have a few pieces of land along the riverbank on Prospect Street that we looked into doing land of low value, but we submitted the application and then we got back a bunch of questions, so we stopped the process, mostly to do with the ownership. It was very complicated to begin with, and they asked some questions we really couldn't answer, so that would be something that the new appointed treasurer could work on, again, with the new principal assessor and the tax collector.
Thank you for that clarification. Day's not wasted when I learn something new. Appreciate it.
So I guess my only other concern about land of low value and any takings, having taken the IP mill, which is going to cost us millions of dollars. I would like to think that in this process it comes before the select board in some way or another, so that we have some knowledge of what's happening before the taking takes place.
So I tried to put that into number 6, and we can repeat it again in number 7, just to clarify that the initiation of the legal action would be with the approval of the select board. I just want to clarify that legally, the law does not state
Right.
that. So that would be us setting local policy, and the treasurer would work at the pleasure of the select board. So I would expect them to follow the policy being set by the select board. But the law does not create further review process. It does empower the treasurer's position to conduct this process.
Understood.
But I could add that language, if you're okay with it, into number 7, just so it's clear.
Yes.
Okay?
I would sleep better at night knowing it's there.
You get it.
Feel feel the bite of the IPML, which was still working through that one.
Mhm.
Under the knowledge, abilities, and skill abilities, first line, far right side. Speak effectively, communicate with the public through spoken, written, listening and reading skills. I understand what it's trying to say. I'm just wondering if that could be a little cleaner, maybe
Okay.
even as simple as with the public through spoken and written word, comma, because speaking is different than listening.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully people are doing both if they're communicating effectively, but just to be a little bit more specific
That's a
there.
fair clarification.
And I made it to the end.
Okay. I will make all of those. I'll save all the red lines that you saw tonight. I will put the new red lines in place and then present it to you on Wednesday.
I looked at the description, sorry. Under challenges and opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
Opportunities include 1, 2, 3, fourth bullet just needs punctuation at the end.
You got it.
Reserve and management practices, period.
Now, when I was drafting this and getting feedback from our colleagues, these are the ones that made sense to us as we were working on it in-house. Are there additional data points that you think a treasurer interested in this position should understand? I thought it was important to note the size of our budget, how much their departmental budget is, but they also oversee the benefits budget. So I wanted them to understand how many benefited employees and retirees on average they're taking care of. So I added those in there. One of our colleagues encouraged us to put in what our current bond rating is because the treasurer shepherds us through that process and maintains those relationships with our bonding agencies. So I added that. If there's other data points that you'd like to see in here, I can certainly research it and add it.
Actually, the one that I was looking for was bullet point number 2 under opportunities, which is influence in the long-range planning, capital investment, and fiscal policy. So I would
It's there.
I think it sits in a good place under directly behind central leadership within the town, in the town and planning for our financial future. So
And as you're saying that, and I'm reflecting not to rehash a conversation you've already had, but as you're saying that, you both were discussing what we were able to do because of our fortunate position this year with OPEB. I think additional work needs to be done in that space on our OPEB investments. It's been set up now for over a decade. We achieved a goal, or we're pretty close to achieving that goal, in a place that many other communities have not reached. And so I do think that we're at a stage where we need to further research and evolve those policies and practices. And I think that's a very appropriate role for the treasurer to shepherd us or to lead us on. So there actually may be some significant work to be done in that space, and it may lend itself more towards that 30 hours a week. To make sure that they have that capacity to not only do all the other investment work that we all discussed, but also to take us to that next place with our OPEB structure.
Jackie, good.
So you're hovering between the 25 and the 30 hours for people applying because it's now an appointed position, which means it would be an employee position. There's a big difference on how the retirement's going to be accrued if you go to the 30 hours versus the 25. So I understand that you're hesitant because you don't think that there's 30 hours worth of work, but I think from what you're discussing, there could be. And I also think that the quality of candidates you're going to you would get more with the 30 hours because it counts more, because it's not full-time, the percentage counts more on the year because they changed the laws back in 2012. So it's not like a 25-hour-a-week position is like 0.625 towards your retirement. A 30-hour is more, and then when you get to 35, it's considered full-time for retirement purposes. So if somebody's starting out and they're looking at this as a career, and they're looking at the Franklin County retirement system, the extra 5 hours doesn't seem like a lot on the surface, but it has a lot more weight towards the retirement percentage.
I hadn't contemplated that. That's a good point. So we can still advertise at the 25 to 30, but I think there's, as we all keep having this conversation, more's popping into my mind that maybe it ends up leaning a little closer to that 30 side, just because of the goals that you all have.
I almost feel like I'm about to sound like our good friend Mr. Hammock. 30 hours to me sounds like we're spending thousands to potentially make millions. So, or at least hundreds of thousands.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
Okay. So I can make all of these changes.
Yep.
Any further changes you want to see for Wednesday night?
No.
Okay,
I think we're good.
you'll have it then.
All right. I think we covered all of the business. We do have a couple of announcements. The annual town meeting will be held Wednesday, May 13th at the Erving Elementary School at 7 p.m. Clean Sweep collections with the Franklin County Solid Waste District will occur on Saturday, May 16th, 2026 at 16 Public Works Boulevard. And our Memorial Day services will be held on Monday, May 25th, 2026, beginning at 10 a.m. at the Town Hall. Understanding we will then make our way for flag ceremonies.
Correct.
To
Center Cemetery, Veterans Memorial Field, and then we will conclude our services at the Veterans Memorial Bridge between us and Montague.
we will pay tribute and give honor to our veterans who made the ultimate sacrifice.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Of course.
Do we have any other business we want to tackle tonight?
I have nothing.
Hearing nothing, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Uh,
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, I will second it. Any further discussion?
None.
Hearing nothing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Good night.